So John, how pleasing was it at the weekend against Warrington?
Yeah, we prepared really well on the back of the loss against Hull KR, so I went there confident. Again, I weren't given much of a hope by anyone again, so that's always pleasing when you can surprise people. But there's belief in the group that they can, if they get their game on, that they can compete and beat anyone.
A good response off the back of that Hull KR defeat, but I'm guessing as well there's still plenty for you to learn after that second half performance perhaps at Warrington.
Yeah, disappointed in one way, but also happy with the way that they scrambled away. We probably gave them enough chances, and then with a sin bin to actually win the game. It's 4 tries is not a whole heap in the game these days, especially if you're not playing well and against 12 men. So I thought we scrapped pretty hard. We made them work hard for their points. They didn't march through us. They were good tries that they scored. So no, we don't want to be in that position where we've got to scramble away to a win. We'd love to sort of put 80 minutes together, but still only early in the year. It gives us something to talk about going into this week.
Plenty to talk about this week. Would it be the Hull derby again? Do you feel you've got anything to prove coming into this after playing Hull KR 2 weeks ago?
No, I don't think that way. I don't want the players to think that way. It's we don't have to prove anything to anyone. It's we've sort of got to the point where we are at the moment, even though it's only very early, but just focusing on what we're doing and not sort of worried about too much what the outside world thinks. We can't control that. Like in any walk of life, you can only control what you do. So that'll be our focus this week and for the rest of the season.
Are you doing anything differently in the build-up to this? You said you weren't quite happy with the build-up to the cup match against them.
Yeah, maybe a little bit more relaxed. It was a big build-up for that game, and it was a cup game as well. So it had this is a Super League game. It's one of 27, so that was a knockout game. So it had a little bit more riding on it, I suppose. So we've just tried to keep things as normal. It's the occasion itself. You would think would be enough to bring the best out in anyone. Like to be mentally ready for the game. So it's just been about focusing on us, trying to work on things that we can improve from last week, and go into the game like we have the previous sort of 8 or 9, wherever we're up to.
And having experienced the derby already, and not that long ago either, do you feel mentally more prepared for it as well as your players? Yeah,
it was the first time for me, and a lot of the players have witnessed it, and haven't probably participated in it, but have watched it and have heard about it. But I'm sure all of us, and Hull KR as well, I'm sure they'll have learnt lessons from that game as well. So hopefully it's a game where we can minimise errors and the crowd will get to see a really free-flowing game of footy.
Do you feel there's been less noise around this one?
Probably because they've been so close together. That was a pretty big build-up for a game, and the actual day of the game, I'm sure it'll be very similar. But it was only 2 weeks ago, so I think both sides will probably handle it a bit better.
Different things at stake. You could go top of Super League if you win. Is that in your mind at all? You've already said it's early in the season, but is it that in your mind?
I think we all know about it, but it's not any sort of extra reason that we use as motivation. Winning each game is motivation enough. Sometimes you've got to look for something a little bit extra, but I don't think this is one of those games. I think the fact that it is a derby game, and everywhere you turn at the moment or you talk to, people want to talk about it. And we all know that whoever gets the win gets the bragging rights until you play again. So no, we're trying to treat it as normal as we can.
What key areas do you think that you will need to be better at this time around?
Just be more calm, more relaxed. I thought last week was the most stress-free we looked on the field. We still played with a lot of intensity and determination, but I just thought we looked a lot calmer. I think in the derby game, we tried to win the game in the first 20 minutes. So in doing that, we made a lot of errors, and we probably just come up with some plays we wouldn't normally do by trying to score points when we should have been just sort of building our game. So I think you find they were pretty similar. They settled down first. and got a try, and then they were pretty calm from that moment. They completed a lot of sets, put us under pressure. So they handled that moment in the game well, and they went on with it.
And having said that, how important will a good start be though on Friday?
Yeah, I think the better the side you play, or the more experienced and side that. Well, they're one of the better teams. Yeah, the start's critical. You can't let them get away on the scoreboard because they're very good front runners. They play a pretty simple game. They always complete high. They kick and chase well. So if you get too far behind on the scoreboard, they're very hard to peg back.
So on to your team. Let's start with the backs. It might be a bit easier. I guess you've got a little bit of food for thought, have you, as far as your backs are concerned?
No, not really. We won't get anyone back this week. There's only the boys that played in the reserve grade last Friday and the guys that played against Warrington on the weekend. So I don't imagine there'll be too many changes. We only had a really light run today. Just got a few wounded. We'll finalise that team on Thursday.
So as far as your forwards go, particularly your back row, is it more of the same again? You're looking at Hardacre and Ed Chamberlain for the 11 and 12?
Yeah, it'll probably have to be. Like I said, they were. With Jack Ashworth, there's probably the three obvious choices. Anyone else would be a real left field. So it's more of the same, I would say. We just sort of through necessity more than anything.
On a positive note, it looks like your squad's shown some real versatility in quite a few areas. Having to, I guess, at the moment. Yeah,
that's a real bright note for us. Chambo's played there a fair bit. But Zach, he's only sort of had little bits and pieces there in, when injuries have hit through games at various clubs. So, but I sort of was real positive what we would get from Zach. He's a very smart footballer. He's very fit and he's very competitive. So I was more than hopeful. I sort of had a lot of confidence that he'd get a job done. And, like I said earlier in the week, he was probably one of our better players on the day.
And having seen Will Price at full-back in anger for a match now, is that really where you do see him fitting in long term?
Certainly at the moment, I think it helps us get our most dangerous team onto the field with Cade, doing a good job for us throughout the season. Aiden at half, Will at fullback. It's at the moment that's where it suits us. I think Jordan Rapana's suited sort of wing or centre. He's filled in at fullback. He's filled in at 5'8", but I think when all those boys are fit, I think that's probably our best combination at the moment.
You don't fancy Jordan Rapana then in the second row?
He might have to if anything else sort of strikes if that curse continues. But he's the same. He wouldn't change the way he plays. He's a free spirit. But it's just good to have players that can play several positions. It just saves you sort of having to put someone in there who's just quite not ready, I suppose. And good experienced heads across the field.
How close are players like Nick Bamford to being back in matchday play?
He played on the weekend. It just depends which way we go, whether we think we need another 9 on the bench or we just do what we've been doing, have Logan on the bench and just there as an emergency in case something happens. If Cade can play hooker at a pinch and then we can just shuffle the backs around and we'll talk about that as coaches. Probably won't make our mind up fully until just before kick-off.
News today as well that Hugo Salebio's gone out on loan for the rest of the season.
But there's a 2-week callback, so it's just about getting game time. I sort of talk about it a fair bit. Just the fact that it's very limited game time that we can get for the guys not in the 17 every week. He's on the edge, but there's no good him sitting on the sideline every week either. We need to get football. I think we'll see a few of the boys if we can get them. Time at the next level down. It's the best thing for the development, and it's the best thing for when they do get the call up to play in the first team.
And finally, the fans. Obviously, you mentioned how good they were for the last derby. Hoping for more of the same again this weekend. I'm
sure they will be. Warrington last week again. They made as much noise as the home team. We're fortunate we've been winning and they've really been giving them, the boys have been really giving them something to cheer about, but they've played their part as well. it's really enjoyable now to go to away games and look up and see the the black and white army up at the end of the field, and the players really acknowledge their support as well.
John, how did he fare on Friday night? He played at looks forward, didn't he, which is a bit different.
Yeah, he went pretty good, mate. So considering he's been out for a bit.
Did he come straight into selection? Is it as easy as saying, he comes straight back in after one game after being out for a few weeks?
No, like I said, we'll make our mind up as we get closer to the game. We've just got to decide what sort of balance we want on the bench.
Jack Charles also made his comeback. I appreciate it. He needs game time right now. So how did he go on Friday?
Yeah, he competed hard. He went pretty well.
Came through unscathed.
Yeah, no injuries. He's played nearly the full game and come through really well.
Looking ahead to the derby on Friday, and then obviously it's a chance to avenge the cup defeat. So that's going to be on the mind. Rovers obviously top box in the city right now with the confidence. What's going through your mind in preparation for that game to get one over there?
Nothing out of the ordinary. Like I said to you earlier, we're just preparing as a normal Super League game. It's the cup game was a knockout. This is one of 27. So yeah, of course we'd love to win, and we're preparing to win, and we'll do everything we can to win. But it's at the end of the day, it's we play Wigan the following week, whether we win or lose. So it's I realise the importance of the game to our fans, and it's no less important to us. But like I said, our preparation has got to be about sort of being calm and treating the game as a big occasion. But it's at the end of the day, it's another game in the Super League season.
You spoke previously about doing stuff different this week. How much can you divulge there? Because I suppose you don't want to give it away, do you? It's a secret.
No, just trying to be a little bit more relaxed, just to take the, I suppose the big bill. And I might be wrong, as a coach, you're very seldom right, to be honest with you. So, I just felt that we played the first 20 minutes of the game it was like a grand final type atmosphere, and we just didn't go out there and play calm, basically. So we want to. I think the first 40 minutes last week was the most cool yet. How could you put it? Just intense. That combination of a cool head, but playing with intensity that I've seen from us. So it's we'd love to be able to do more of that this week.
I suppose you're honest there. It's a team game, obviously 1-17, but in particular, John Asiata, as you're in the CZ, Jordan Raffin, to sort of leave that message for you on Friday and play calm and play smart. Yeah,
your big game players, in the bigger the game, the more you need your big game experienced players to have a mark on it, and the more the opposition can take their impression on the game, that's the one who generally wins. If your good players are the sort of 3-2-1s in the man of the match, you're going to lose the game. The whole point of the game is to try and take the best players and make them look human. Basically, that's our challenge.
Kane obviously came back into the side last week and helped Aiden as well, just like a perfect foil for him. Is that not a coincidence in your eyes, the fact that them two work so well together? Yeah,
they really enjoy playing together. They've got to know each other over the opening rounds of the competition, and they've had a bit of success. So it's Will's also sort of a pretty gifted player who understands the game, and he slotted in pretty well, which has helped Aiden, and Aiden and Johnny work really well together. We've just been fortunate that the three out of the four have been able to spend a lot of time on the field training and playing, and their understanding's pretty good now.
What does that say about Will then, to play as he has trying to play in Australia, coming to England, stepping into a derby game? It's like a cauldron, going away to Warrington and playing like he did, two different positions as well. That must really excite you as a coach, to do that in 2 weeks. And then what he can do for the next 3 years. Yeah,
that's like I said earlier. He's a great signing for the club through his age, and having the build-up that he's had with a couple of off seasons in the NRL, a couple of games in the NRL, he's going to come back here a much more polished player. Very confident lad. So it hasn't surprised me what he's been able to do in the couple of games that he's had. But yeah, you're right. Just really exciting that. What he's going to bring to the club over the next 3 years.
He integrated well into the squad then, because there's been a lot of noise about how tight this squad is, and how much time they spend in each other's company and how vibrant they are. So he's well settled into that as well.
Yeah, he has. He knows a lot of the boys. There's a few there that spent time at Huddersfield with him. I know Jed spent time at Newcastle with him. So he had a bit of a head start there in that a lot of the lads knew him. So no, he's fit in like he's been here all year. He's been great.
Was that strategic in the signing then, with yourself and Richie identifying him, knowing that he actually knows a few of the boys already?
It wasn't anything that sort of. It was just his talent that we sort of recognised, and it was a position I thought we could do with a bit of strike or depth. But it just sort of worked out good that he did know a few of the boys from previous clubs.
In terms of the derby on Friday, I think 21,000 people are going to be there, so it'll be even more than 2 weeks ago. I mean, you've seen it once. What are you expecting this time? Is more the same?
Yeah, I imagine so. Like I said here, our crowds have been really vocal wherever we've played. I'm not sure of the breakdown of the crowds, how many of each club will be there, but I know our fans will hear them when you hear them from an hour before kick-off till probably half an hour after the game. They provide a great atmosphere for both teams.
Davey said after the game on Saturday that fans that support gets you home on a match day. Is that fair?
They help. They don't. It's when you need a lift and the opposition sort of making it hard for you. If your crowd can pick you up, it's a good one sort of big play from a player and the crowd get behind the team and you can see a response. It's like it's an extra shot of energy. They've provided that for us the whole year. That when you're playing against really good sides, the crowd can help, but it's going to be up to the 13 boys out in the field to get the job done.
After the game, you can finally share a beer with your little mate from Australia, Willie Peters. Did you forward to that?
Yeah. Well, he didn't live far from me, Will, so I'll chase him down at some point after the game. He's a good lad, Will. I look forward to it.
Has it surprised you what he's done in this country since coming from Australia? He's really hit the ground running.
Yeah, he's very organised. Will, he knows the game back to front, and he's a really good fellow to spend time with. So it hasn't surprised me that he's moulded that club the way he has. Thank you.
Hey John, you've mentioned about the belief in the team. From your perspective, how do you maintain that belief, and especially on them things in what they're doing well?
It's just day to day. They've worked really hard to get to this point, and they continue to work really hard. Senior players keep the younger players' heads out of the cloud. So it's no magic wand there. It's just continuing to turn up, make sure you don't look over the little things. It's all little things. Leave here at the end of the day, training-wise, know that you've ticked every box, and you turn up the next day, and you start from when they get here about 7 o'clock and keep doing what you do till you leave again. So it's just making sure you don't get ahead of yourself, do the right thing, stay humble.
And in terms of your confidence in the players, you mentioned about some of the areas that we need to improve on, mainly around errors in the game. Is that something you're confident that we can eradicate from our game going forward over the season? Yeah,
there'll be ups and downs. Like I said, no one goes out and intends to make errors. You got to find it'd be easy to not make errors, just run from dummy half and kick basically, but we'd have no one watching us, and you probably wouldn't win many games. So it's finding that balance between the risk takers have to take a risk every now and then, but it's everyone else knowing their job around the guys that take the risk. It's a balance, and we'll continue to play football. That's where we're at our best, but we've just got to sometimes rein it in.
In terms of it being a derby again, is it a case of not getting caught up in the hype like we did in the first game a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah, I haven't really mentioned that. I think we spoke about that after the game, so I haven't made a big deal of it. It's probably more in how the coaches are handling the week. Just try to, again, it's just, we're focused on being better from where we were at Warrington into this game. Different opposition, and, there's little subtle things that we'll do differently where we think we can gain an advantage, but nothing major there. It's just trying to prepare them best for the occasion that's in front of them.
Okay, thanks, John.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
You're going to war on Friday. You're coming in on the back of a good win. They're coming in on the back of a home defeat, a first defeat of the season. How does that differ for the two teams, would you say?
Yeah, it's always dangerous playing good sides off the back of loss. Not many of the top, they're a top two team. Not many top two teams lose two in a row very often. So it'll be a bit of extra motivation, I would imagine, for them. But again, if we worry about that too much, we're not. What I said earlier, we're not worrying about our own job. Once you get out there and the ball's kicked off, and after 10 minutes, both sides are gassing, that sort of motivation goes out the window. It all comes down to the players on the field then and who handles the occasion the best.
Just basically down to more desire, who wants this game the most.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. And it will be a big part of it. Look, we're under no illusions. The scoreboard didn't reflect the game we played last time. They were way too good for us for 60 minutes of the game. They taught us a few lessons and they put a lot of points on us. So yeah, we're going to have to be at our very, very best to match them and beat them.
And obviously you went to Warrington and really did a job on them in the first half. Was there possibly an element there of, we've got the game won here, and sort of having one eye on what's coming on Friday? That's all in the second half.
Well, it's a hard one. I hope not. They went out with all good intentions in the second half. I think the sin binning was a big one, but I'm not saying you shouldn't have been sin binned. It was, that's been in the game for a while now. You just can't do what Jack did. So I think that really affected us. We weren't, we made a couple of errors up to that point, but we were defending our line. I felt comfortable with what Warrington were throwing at us. 12 men's a whole different scenario. When you got the guile that they had in the opposition. So they got a try and got them back into the game, and we just found it hard to get momentum and sort of try and get some ball up the other end. So yeah, it's a tough one. That I just. Like I say, you don't go out to mean to make mistakes, and there was a couple there that we had our time again we wouldn't do. But I just think the sin bin was a big turning point for how that second half sort of finished.
Would it be fair to say, obviously you've won the game by 12 points, would it be fair to say after a 22-point lead at half-time that you were under no real threat of losing that game at any point?
I was worried for a while, I'll tell you. I was probably worried because of the opposition and the where the game was being played. We just seemed to be defending our try line the whole time, and then we'd make errors in our own end, and they'd come, another wave would come, and they'd score. And like I said, at the end of the day, you don't want to be in those positions. Like the really good sides go on with it, or at least finish at 20 points up. If you had walked off the field and no one scored in the second half, we would have been pretty happy with that. But it is what it is. We know if we make errors against good teams, they're going to make us pay. But I'm pretty sure we'll continue to play footy, the way we have been.
And you've been saying a lot about how experienced players, your Jordan Rapiner, Aiden Caesar, people like that are going to be so important in a big game like you're having on Friday. But as well as them, how important are the lads like Davy Litton, Logan Moy, the local boys, and even the locals who won't be able to play like a Brad Fash or a Jordan Lynn? How important are they this week? Yeah,
every game is a whole squad effort. As I said, they are a very tight-knit unit. They all get to the games. They all play their part on game day. And whilst there is disappointment when you're not in the side through, you just haven't been selected or injury, there's a real good camaraderie amongst the whole group, and it's good to see. It's good to sit back and watch because it's probably a hidden piece of the puzzle. Just how tight your group are. You can't describe it, but you certainly know when it's there, and you know when it's not there.
And one last thing, they knocked you out of the cup. You could knock them off the top of the Super League. However, in a situation like that, is obviously beyond people's minds, but is revenge a sort of a dangerous word in a situation like that?
Yeah, that's why we haven't spoke about that. You know, when the game's said and done, we'll either be 1 point in front or 3 behind. So it's not certainly, it's not something. I'm just saying it's not something that's been mentioned. You know, it's too much to worry about preparing and getting ready for a game without worrying about what the result will entail. You know, we sort of were aware of that, but that's not going to win us the game. You know, that's the type of thinking we're trying to get away from. It's just focus on the game, be prepared, stay as calm as we can, and you know, at the end of the game, like I said, we'll be even 1 in front or 3 behind.
Okay, thank you very much. Cheers.